There is a particular kind of pain that doesn't cry, doesn't argue, and doesn't demand to be seen. It stays quiet. It sits behind calm eyes and controlled expressions, unnoticed by most people. These are the people who stay silent when they're hurt. Not because they don't feel deeply, but because they feel too deeply. They've learned that not every wound needs an audience, and not every emotion is safe to express. So instead of reacting, they retreat inward. Instead of speaking, they observe. And instead of explaining themselves, they carry the weight quietly. Silence, for them, is not absence, it's protection. Psychology tells us that people who remain silent when they're hurt are often highly self-aware. Their minds are constantly scanning the environment, reading tone, intention, and emotional shifts. They don't just hear words, they hear meaning. And when they're hurt, they don't immediately respond because they're processing everything at once: what was said, why it was said, what it revealed, and whether speaking up would change anything at all. Most of the time, they already know the answer, so they choose silence, not out of fear, but out of clarity. These individuals often grew up in environments where expressing emotions didn't feel safe or effective. Maybe their feelings were dismissed, minimized, or misunderstood. Maybe speaking up led to conflict, rejection, or emotional chaos. Over time, their nervous system learned a powerful lesson: staying quiet keeps the peace. Psychology refers to this as adaptive behavior. When the brain adjusts its responses to survive emotionally, silence becomes a shield, a way to stay in control when everything inside feels overwhelming. When someone stays silent while they're hurting, it doesn't mean they're okay. In fact, it usually means the opposite. Their mind is racing. They're replaying conversations, analyzing intentions, questioning their own reactions. They feel anger, sadness, disappointment, and confusion all at once, but they hold it in because they don't trust the moment to hold them back. They know that words spoken from pain can't be taken back, so they wait. They sit with the discomfort until it settles into something they can understand. One of the most misunderstood traits about silent people is that others often assume they don't care. But psychology shows that silence during emotional pain often signals emotional depth, not detachment. These individuals care deeply, sometimes too deeply. That's why they hesitate to speak. They don't want to hurt others the way they've been hurt. They don't want to escalate situations or say something they'll regret. Their silence is an act of restraint, not indifference. In a society that rewards loud reactions and immediate emotional expression, this kind of silence is often misread. We live in a culture where people are encouraged to say how you feel instantly, to react in real time, to externalize everything. But not all minds work that way. For some, emotional processing happens internally first. They need space, time, and quiet to make sense of what they're feeling. Speaking too soon feels unsafe because their emotions haven't finished forming yet. Psychologists have found that people who suppress immediate reactions often have higher levels of emotional regulation. This doesn't mean they're repressing emotions in a harmful way. It means they can experience strong feelings without letting those feelings control their behavior. When they're hurt, they pause instead of exploding. They reflect instead of reacting. That pause is not weakness, it's discipline. And discipline is one of the strongest forms of emotional strength. Silence also gives them power. When you don't immediately react, you see things others miss. You notice patterns. You recognize who apologizes and who deflects, who listens and who interrupts, who cares and who simply wants to be right. Silence becomes a mirror, revealing more about others than words ever could. That's why people who stay silent when hurt often develop sharp emotional intelligence. They understand human behavior not through confrontation, but through observation. However, this strength comes with a cost. Carrying pain quietly can feel isolating. When no one sees your struggle, it can feel like your pain doesn't matter. Silent people often feel invisible in their suffering. They become the strong one, the calm one, the understanding one, while their own emotional needs go unmet. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion. Not because they're weak, but because they've been strong for too long without relief. Many of these individuals are introverted or highly sensitive. That doesn't mean they're socially anxious or withdrawn. It means their nervous systems process emotional information more deeply. Every interaction carries weight. Every emotional shift is felt intensely. When they're hurt, it's not just a moment, it's an experience that echoes, so they withdraw, not to punish others, but to protect themselves from emotional overload. There's also a deep sense of responsibility in their silence. They often feel accountable for maintaining harmony. They don't want to create tension, arguments, or emotional instability, so they absorb the discomfort instead. They tell themselves it's better to stay quiet than to disrupt the peace. But what they don't always realize is that this peace comes at their own expense. pain that isn't expressed doesn't disappear. It settles, it waits, and eventually, it asks to be acknowledged. Psychology explains that chronic emotional silence can turn into internalized stress. When emotions are consistently held in, the body remembers. Tension builds in the nervous system. This can show up as fatigue, anxiety, or emotional numbness. Not because silence is bad, but because humans aren't meant to carry everything alone. Even the strongest minds need release. Yet, despite this, people who stay silent when they're hurt possess something rare. They have the ability to feel deeply without losing themselves. They can experience pain without becoming destructive. They can be wounded without becoming bitter. That level of emotional control is not accidental. It's earned through experience, reflection, and self-awareness. When these individuals finally speak, their words carry weight. They don't talk just to talk. They speak when something truly matters. That's why when they express hurt, it's usually calm, clear, and honest. There's no drama, no exaggeration, just truth. And that truth often lands harder because it comes from someone who rarely speaks from emotion. If you're someone who stays silent when you're hurt, it's important to understand this about yourself. Your silence is not a flaw, it's a language. It's how your mind creates safety, how your heart processes pain, and how your nervous system protects your peace. But silence should be a choice, not a prison. You're allowed to speak when the weight becomes too heavy. You're allowed to be heard, even if it feels uncomfortable. And if you know someone like this, someone who doesn't react, who withdraws when hurt, don't assume they're unaffected. Check in gently. Create space without pressure. Understand that their silence is not rejection, it's reflection. They don't need to be pushed to speak. They need to feel safe enough to do so. In the end, psychology reminds us that silence is not emptiness, it's information. It tells a story of emotional depth, learned restraint, and inner complexity. People who stay silent when they're hurt are often the ones who feel the most, love the deepest, and understand the world in ways that words could never fully explain. Their quiet is not absence, it's presence turned inward. And within that silence lives resilience, wisdom, and a strength the world rarely notices but deeply needs.